Simon Ballard is with me around the desk. He's the Executive Director and Macro Strategist from FAB Global Markets. Simon, it does seem like the Europeans are still playing hardball with the UK when it comes to Brexit. Boris Johnson essentially facing a lot of the similar pressures or same pressures that Theresa May faced. Do you think that perhaps a no-deal Brexit is still the most likely scenario here?
A no-deal Brexit has always been my default case. From the start, I've said, and I've been very consistent, that a no-deal Brexit was the only way this was going to conclude. People have dismissed that, but little by little, I think the market is starting to shift onto my side of the camp. If anybody was going to get a deal through, it was assumed that with Boris coming in as the new Prime Minister, with his character and his attitude, he'd managed to sort of, bolster something through. But it's not so much Boris himself. I think it's the EU refusing to renegotiate that, in actual fact, come October 31st, and if the Johnson administration have committed themselves now to adhering to that deadline, it's the EU that will trigger the hard Brexit rather than Johnson, because they will say, no, there's no further negotiation to be done. You're starting to drag or further drag, the European economy down. Off you go, leave. That's it. There is no extension. There is no negotiation. So that's, I think, going to be the critical thing that the market probably isn't quite aware of at the moment. It's going to be EU-led hard Brexit more perhaps than Boris Johnson-led.
Very interesting. Matt, come on in here.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the other basket case then in Europe, which is Italy. Do you see snap elections coming? What is it going to mean then if we see the Lega Party, of course, more anti-Europe, of course, in their principles there, come to power if there is a snap election? What's that going to mean for Italy's relationship with the EU as well? We know that they've been working to get the budget back on track. They had to make a number of concessions. That could all seemingly be thrown out the window as well.
Yep. I mean, this is a huge issue for Europe in terms of the debt pile that Italy is now sitting on at around 2.6 trillion euros. Obviously, political instability isn't something that the Italian sort of audience and the Eurozone is unfamiliar with in Rome. And now, as of late, the breakdown with Conte resigning on the back of his refusal to work with Salvini. In actual fact, the negotiations with the president this evening, if that leads to Conte coming back and heading up a new coalition with which to avoid the snap elections that Salvini thought during the summer, given the poll ratings, he was going to be able to command and take greater control with, I think the market would view that as a better solution than the elections. The prospect of Salvini, gaining further power with that 2.6 trillion debt pile behind him, and what he might do in terms of trying to sort of aggressively attack the budget, would be more negative. And that's why you've seen the recent tightening over the last week or so in the Italian CDS from about 220 basis points to 200. I'm sure in the short term we'll probably see a little bit more re-widening there on the back of this political uncertainty. But the next 24, 48 hours will be key as to see who comes out on top, Conte or Salvini.
Yeah, very interesting. Right, never a dull moment in Italian politics.
Never.
Simon, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. That's Simon Ballard from FAB Global Markets. Matt.